Genocide. That's what awaited Earth as the Iridian conquest fleet descended upon humanity's homeworld. An ultimatum from Emperor Kazan himself. Surrender or die. Panic gripped the globe as the people of Earth faced an impossible choice. Amidst the chaos, a glimmer of hope emerged. Isaac Young, a former Special Forces operative haunted by his past, held the key to humanity's salvation. Years ago, his team had discovered a hidden vulnerability in the Iridian cybernetic neural network, a weakness that could bring their entire empire to its knees. But to exploit this weakness, Isaac needed to find Antares, a Iridian defector hiding in the sprawling slums of New Jakarta. With her intimate knowledge of Iridian technology, Antares could help Isaac decipher the complex codes protecting their network. Time was running out as Iridian dropships darkened Earth's skies. Navigating a treacherous underworld of criminals and spies, Isaac raced against the clock to locate Antares before the Iridians silenced her forever. The fate of humanity hung in the balance as he set out on a desperate mission to unite the scattered remnants of Earth's military for one last stand against an enemy that had never known defeat. The battle for Earth's future had begun, and failure was not an option. The Iridians would learn that when pushed to the brink, humanity would fight with a ferocity and tenacity unmatched in the galaxy. They would discover that Earth was not just another world to conquer, but a planet of warriors ready to defend their home until their last breath. As the Iridian dropships descended upon New Jakarta, Isaac Young moved through the city's seedy underbelly with a sense of urgency. The fate of humanity rested on his ability to locate Antares, the Iridian defector who held the key to their salvation. Navigating the labyrinthine slums, Isaac and his team of resistance fighters found themselves beset by treacherous gangs and Iridian collaborators at every turn. Their search led them to Zara, a cunning information broker with deep ties to the criminal underworld. Her dark eyes glittered with calculated interest as Isaac approached her table in a dimly lit bar. "I hear you're looking for someone," she purred, leaning back in her chair. "Information like that doesn't come cheap." Isaac gritted his teeth, acutely aware of the limited time they had. "Name your price." Zara's lips curled into a smile. "I want a cut of whatever deal you make with Antares, and a guarantee of safe passage off this rock once the shit hits the fan." Though the price was steep, Isaac knew they had no choice. With a curt nod, he accepted her terms, unaware of the hidden agenda lurking behind Zara's enigmatic gaze. Armed with Zara's intel, Isaac and his team closed in on Antares' location. The air grew thick with tension as they navigated the narrow, debris-strewn streets of the slums. Suddenly, the sound of gunfire erupted from a nearby alleyway. Isaac's instincts kicked in as he dove for cover, his team following suit. A notorious gang leader known as Rays emerged from the shadows, flanked by heavily armed thugs. "You should have minded your own business," Rays sneered, leveling his gun at Isaac. Isaac's mind raced as he assessed the situation. They were outnumbered and outgunned, trapped in a deadly ambush. With a deep breath, he reached for his weapon, prepared to fight his way out. The ensuing firefight was brutal and bloody. Isaac moved with the precision of a trained soldier, taking down Rays' men one by one. But the resistance suffered heavy casualties, each fallen comrade a painful reminder of the high cost of their mission. As the smoke cleared, Isaac and his battered team pushed forward, driven by the weight of their responsibility. They had to reach Antares before it was too late. Above the chaos on the ground, the remnants of humanity's space fleet engaged in a desperate battle against the Iridian Armada. Admiral Alara Voss stood on the bridge of her flagship, her eyes hard with purpose as she watched the enemy ships advance. "We can't hold them off much longer," her first officer warned, his face etched with concern. Alara's mind focused. "We don't need to hold them off. We need to buy time for the ground team." With a resolute nod, she issued her orders, rallying her forces for a last-ditch effort to breach the Iridian blockade. The fleet fought valiantly, their ships bursting into flames as they sacrificed themselves to open a hole in the enemy lines. Through the breach, a small group of dropships carrying much-needed supplies and troops slipped through, descending through the atmosphere towards the beleaguered resistance on the ground. Guided by Zara's information, Isaac and his team finally located Antares' safe house deep within the slums. But before they could reach her, a Iridian kill team led by the ruthless Centurion Kravox ambushed them. The air crackled with energy weapons as the two sides clashed in a violent confrontation. In the chaos of the battle, Antares was gravely wounded, her life hanging by a thread. Isaac faced an impossible choice: save her life or protect the vital information she carried. With iron will, he scooped her up and signaled his team to retreat, fighting their way through the war-torn streets as they raced against time to reach the Resistance headquarters. Unbeknownst to them, their every move was being watched by the mysterious Shadow Broker, a figure cloaked in secrecy who had their own plans for the outcome of the war. As Isaac and his team arrived at the Resistance base with Antares in tow, the gravity of their situation became clear. The Iridian vulnerability was their last hope, a chance to turn the tide of the invasion and give humanity a fighting chance. With the arrival of Admiral Voss's reinforcements, the Resistance prepared for their impossible risk. The fate of Earth hung in the balance as they plotted their next move, knowing that failure was not an option. The Iridians had underestimated the tenacity and purpose of humanity, and now it was time to show them the true strength of a species fighting for its survival. Isaac looked around at the faces of his fellow Resistance members, seeing the grit etched in their weary eyes. They had come too far to give up now. As he clutched his weapon and prepared for the battle ahead, he knew that no matter the outcome, they would fight until their last breath to defend their home and their people. The war for Earth's future had reached its climax, and the Resistance was ready to meet it head-on. With Antares' knowledge and the support of Admiral Voss' forces, they would strike at the heart of the Iridian Empire and prove that humanity would never surrender, never back down in the face of annihilation. The final battle was about to begin, and the fate of an entire species rested on the shoulders of a brave few who dared to stand against an enemy that had never known defeat. The Iridians were about to learn the true meaning of human resilience and the lengths to which a people would go to protect their home. The Resistance base thrummed with renewed energy as Isaac Young gathered the leadership around a holographic display of New Carthage. Antares, still weak but determined, pointed to a fortified structure at the city's heart. "There," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Iridian control hub. It's the nexus of their neural network." Isaac's eyes narrowed as he studied the layout. "If we can infiltrate that facility and upload your virus, we could cripple their entire operation." Admiral Voss nodded grimly. "It's a long shot, but it's the best chance we've got." As the plan took shape, Isaac set out to assemble his team. He found Zara in a dimly lit corner of the base, her dark eyes glittering with interest as he approached. "I need your expertise on New Carthage," Isaac said without preamble. Zara's lips curled into a smile. "And what's in it for me?" "A chance to stick it to the Iridians and to get rich when we win." She considered for a moment, then nodded. "I'm in." Next, Isaac recruited Sergeant Nikolai Petrov, a burly man with a grizzled beard and hands that never seemed to stop moving. "You need things to go boom?" Nikolai asked, a mischievous glint in his eye. "I'm your man." Corporal Shen Liu, a slight woman with close-cropped hair and lightning-quick fingers, joined them next. Her ability to crack Iridian systems would be crucial to their success. As Isaac finalized the team roster, a tall, lithe figure approached him. Her skin was a deep blue, with iridescent markings that seemed to shimmer in the low light. "I am Thalia," she said, her voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. "My people, the Vosrans, have fought the Iridians for generations. I offer you my skills and knowledge." Isaac hesitated, studying her alien features. Trust didn't come easily, especially not now. But as their eyes met, he saw a fierce willpower that mirrored his own. "Welcome aboard," he said, extending his hand. In orbit, Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the remnants of Earth's fleet merged with her reinforcements. She turned to her tactical officer, her face set with grim persistence. "Prepare for Operation Phantom Strike," she ordered. "We're going to hit their supply lines hard and draw their armada away from Earth." As the fleets clashed in the void of space, Isaac and his team slipped into the ruins of New Carthage. They moved through the shattered streets like ghosts, guided by Zara's intimate knowledge of the city's underworld. Nikolai's expertly placed charges blew a hole in the control hub's perimeter wall, and they surged forward into the breach. Alarms blared as they fought their way through corridors lined with pulsing alien technology. "We're close to the central control room," Shen called out, her fingers dancing over a stolen Iridian datapad. "But their security protocols are adapting fast." Isaac and Thalia moved in perfect sync, covering each other as they pushed deeper into the facility. Iridian soldiers fell before them, their cybernetic implants sparking as they collapsed. Suddenly, they found themselves face to face with Overseer Zolthax, a towering Iridian encased in glowing armor. His augmented voice boomed through the chamber as he raised his weapon. "You primitive vermin," he snarled. "Did you really think you could challenge the might of the Iridian Empire?" The battle that followed was fierce and desperate. Isaac's team fought with everything they had, but Zolthax and his elite guards seemed unstoppable. In a moment of desperation, Thalia let out a primal scream. A wave of psionic energy erupted from her, sending Iridian soldiers flying. She collapsed to her knees, spent but triumphant. With the path clear, Shen raced to the central console. Her fingers flew over the alien interface as she prepared to upload the virus. Suddenly, her eyes widened in alarm. "They're initiating a system purge," she shouted. I have to." Before anyone could stop her, Shen grabbed a cluster of neural interface cables and jammed them into her skull. Her body convulsed as she became one with the Iridian network, forcing the virus through by sheer will. As Shen's sacrifice took effect, the Iridian soldiers began to falter. Their coordinated movements became erratic, their weapons misfiring or shutting down completely. Isaac scooped up Shen's unconscious form, and the team fought their way back through the crumbling facility. They emerged into a city in chaos, the once unstoppable Iridian war machine now in disarray. As the resistance pushed forward, reclaiming their world street by street, Isaac looked to the stars. He knew that this victory, hard-won as it was only the beginning. The Iridian Empire still held countless worlds in its grip. Thalia stepped up beside him, her alien eyes reflecting the commitment in his own. "My people will stand with yours," she said softly. "Together, we will take the fight to the stars." Isaac nodded, his mind already racing with plans for the battles to come. The war for Earth was won, but the struggle for the galaxy had only just begun. The dust had barely settled on Earth when Isaac Young found himself staring at the holographic display of a world he'd never seen before. Xiron, the Iridian homeworld, loomed before him, a swirling orb of blues and greens that belied its status as the heart of an empire built on conquest and subjugation. "This is insanity," Admiral Voss said, her voice tight with tension. "Infiltrating their homeworld? It's suicide." Isaac's eyes never left the display. "It's our only shot at ending this war for good. We hit them where they least expect it." The plan took shape over sleepless nights and countless strategy sessions. Isaac handpicked his team, each member bringing a crucial skill to the table. Rafe Hellfire Santos, a pilot with a reputation for pulling off the impossible, would lead their aerospace operations. And Tyra's, still recovering from her wounds, pored over intelligence reports, identifying weaknesses in the Citadel's defenses. As they prepared, an unexpected ally emerged. Thalia, the Vosran warrior who had fought alongside them on Earth, approached Isaac with an offer. "My people have waged war against the Iridians for generations," she said, her iridescent markings pulsing with intensity. "We offer you our knowledge, our tactics, and this—" She held up a small device that seemed to bend light around it. "Experimental cloaking technology. It may give us the edge we need." Isaac clasped her hand, feeling the weight of their shared purpose. "We're grateful for your help, Thalia. We'll need every advantage we can get." The day of the operation arrived with a tension that crackled through the air like static electricity. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of her flagship, her face a mask of iron will, as she issued the order to engage the Iridian Armada. "Give them hell," Isaac said over the comm as he watched Voss's fleet jump to hyperspace. Aboard their commandeered Iridian supply ship, Isaac's team held their breath as they approached the convoy. Zara's forged transit codes flickered across the ship's communication array, while Shen's fingers danced over her console, masking their life signs from Iridian scanners. "Incoming transmission," Hellfire announced, his voice taut with tension. "Iridian patrol vessel requesting permission to board for inspection." Isaac's mind raced. "Thalia, it's up to you." The Vosren closed her eyes, concentrating. As the Iridian troops boarded, their eyes seemed to slide past the human infiltrators, unseeing. Once clear of the patrol, the journey to Xiren stretched on, each moment fraught with the possibility of discovery. Isaac found Antares studying a detailed schematic of the Citadel, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Second thoughts?" he asked quietly. She looked up, her eyes hard. "No, the Overseers must be stopped. The horrors they've inflicted on countless worlds, it has to end." As they entered Xiren's orbit, Isaac gathered his team for a final briefing. "We have one shot at this," he said, looking each of them in the eye. "Shen, your team will target the reactor core. The rest of us will make for the command center. Remember, our target is the Overseers themselves. Take them out, and the whole empire crumbles." With a nod to Thalia, they activated the Vosran cloaking devices. The world around them shimmered and blurred as they slipped past the Citadel's outer defenses, undetected. Inside the Citadel was a maze of twisting corridors and pulsing alien technology. They moved swiftly, guided by Antares' inside knowledge. When they reached the junction where they would split up, Isaac clasped Shen's shoulder. "Good luck," he said simply. She nodded, her face set with perseverance. "See you on the other side." Minutes later, the first explosions rocked the Citadel. Alarms blared as Isaac's team fought their way through waves of disoriented Iridian guards. They burst into the command center, weapons blazing, to find themselves face to face with the Overseers. Isaac's breath caught in his throat. The beings before him were monstrous amalgamations of flesh and machine, their eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. At their center stood Overseer Prime, a towering figure that radiated power and cruelty. "Pitiful humans," Overseer Prime's voice boomed, shaking the very air. "Your resistance ends here." As the battle raged, Isaac found himself locked in combat with the Iridian leader. Each blow, each near miss, pushed him to his limits. He could feel the weight of every loss, every sacrifice that had led to this moment. With a primal yell, Isaac drove his weapon into a weak point in Overseer Prime's cybernetic armor. The creature's inhuman scream echoed through the chamber as it collapsed. For a moment, silence reigned. Then the Citadel shuddered violently. "Reactor's going critical," Hellfire's voice crackled over the comm. "We need to move now." They fought their way back through the crumbling Citadel, Iridian forces in disarray around them. At the extraction point, they found their escape route blocked by a wall of energy. "The shields," Antares gasped. "We can't get through." Thalia stepped forward, her body already glowing with psionic energy. "I can bring them down, but the effort, I won't survive it." Before Isaac could protest, she placed her hand on the shimmering barrier. Energy arced from her body as the shield flickered and died. "Go!" she cried, her voice strained with effort. As they raced toward Hellfire's waiting ship, Isaac looked back to see Thalia engulfed in a blaze of psionic fire. The Citadel erupted behind them as they punched through Xiren's atmosphere, leaving the burning world behind. In the ship's hold, surrounded by his battered but triumphant team, Isaac felt the weight of their victory and its cost. He knew that the war was just getting started, but for the first time since the Iridians arrived on Earth, he allowed himself to feel a flicker of hope for the future. The Resistance fleet limped back to Earth, their victory on Xiren bittersweet. Isaac stood on the observation deck, watching as the blue-green orb of humanity's homeworld grew larger. The weight of their losses pressed down on him, but a flicker of hope burned in his chest. That hope was extinguished mere days later. "Massive hyperspace signatures detected," Shen reported, her face pale as she studied the long-range sensors. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." Admiral Voss's voice crackled over the comm. "All ships, battle stations, this is not a drill." As claxons blared throughout the fleet, Isaac raced to the command center. The holographic display showed a sea of red icons pouring into the system, dwarfing their own meager forces. How? Isaac breathed, his mind turning. We took out their leadership, their homeworld. Antara stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the incoming armada. The overseers were just puppets. There must be someone else pulling the strings. As if in answer to her words, a message cut across all frequencies. A deep, guttural voice filled the air, sending chills down Isaac's spine. I am Emperor Kazan, true ruler of the Iridian Empire. You have sown the wind, vermin. Now reap the whirlwind. The next hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Isaac coordinated with resistance cells across liberated worlds, calling in every favor and debt owed. Zara's underworld connections proved invaluable, securing desperately needed supplies and munitions. A ragtag alliance of freed systems pledged what ships they could spare, but it was clear they were hopelessly outmatched. Isaac found himself in a strategy session with Admiral Voss and the other resistance leaders, staring at the overwhelming odds arrayed against them. We can't win this fight conventionally, Isaac said, his mind racing. We need to cut off the head of the snake. He laid out his plan, a high-risk infiltration of Kazan's flagship, the Tartarus. It was a high-stakes endeavor, but it was all they had. Days later, Isaac crouched in the hold of a captured Iridian boarding craft, surrounded by his hand-picked team. Shen's fingers flew over her datapad, preparing the cyber warfare suite. Hellfire ran through pre-flight checks, his usual cocky grin replaced by grim focus. 30 seconds to contact, Hellfire announced. Isaac looked at each member of his team, nodding in silent acknowledgement of the danger ahead. The craft shuddered as it penetrated the Tartarus's shields, latching on to the massive ship's hull. Remember the plan, Isaac said as they prepared to disembark. Shen, rig those explosives. Hellfire, create as much chaos in the hangar bays as you can. We'll push for the command deck. They burst from the boarding craft, immediately engaging the Iridian security forces. The corridors of the Tartarus became a maelstrom of plasma fire and acrid smoke. Isaac and his Vosran allies carved a path through the enemy, their movements fluid and synchronized. Alarms blared as they fought their way deeper into the ship. Isaac's muscles burned with exertion, but he pushed forward relentlessly. They had come too far to fail now. Suddenly they emerged into a vast domed chamber. At its center stood a figure that seemed more machine than man, encased in a towering exosuit that bristled with weapons. So, Emperor Kazan's amplified voice boomed, the vermin have come to face their doom. Isaac raised his weapon, but Kazan moved with impossible speed. A massive armored fist sent him flying across the chamber. He struggled to his feet, tasting blood. The battle that followed was unlike anything Isaac had ever experienced. Kazan's cybernetic enhancements made him a juggernaut, shrugging off attacks that would have felled any normal opponent. Isaac and his team fought with everything they had, but they were being steadily driven back. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, the ship lurched violently. Shen's explosives had found their mark, severing the Tartarus's main power conduits. As emergency lighting flickered on, Kazan's exosuit briefly lost cohesion. Isaac saw his chance and took it. He charged forward, unleashing a flurry of blows against the suddenly vulnerable Emperor. The exosuit's armor cracked and shattered under the assault. With a final, desperate strike, Isaac drove his weapon into a weak point in Kazan's defenses. The Emperor's inhuman scream echoed through the chamber as he collapsed. Silence fell, broken only by the distant sounds of battle and the harsh rasp of Isaac's breathing. He stared down at Kazan's broken form, the enormity of what had just transpired washing over him. A crackling voice came over his comm unit. Isaac, we've got to go! This whole ship is coming apart! He turned away from the fallen Emperor, gathering his team for their desperate escape. As they fought their way back to their entry point, Isaac could already see the massive Iridian fleet beginning to fragment without Kazan's iron control. Their small craft broke free of the dying Tartarus, dodging debris and stray weapons fire. As they raced back toward the resistance fleet, Isaac looked out at the chaos they had unleashed. The Iridian Empire was shattering before his eyes. But at what cost? How many worlds had burned in this conflict? How many lives had been lost? As Earth grew larger in their view screen, Isaac knew that the real work was just beginning. They had won the war, but now they faced an even greater challenge, building a lasting peace from the ashes of conflict.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.